Welcome to an all-new episode of Her Playbook, a podcast highlighting inspiring stories of women in business and sports. Her Playbook is brought to you by Kendra Scott and is a part of the Giants podcast platform. My name is Madelyn Burke, and this week I'm thrilled to be joined by the very first head coach in the history of the WNBA's expansion team, the Golden State Valkyries, Natalie Nakase. Nat, thank you so much. I feel like that is still so much fun for me to say about you. How has this experience been for you being the very first head coach of a franchise?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride. It's kind of like all go, no breaks right now, just because like as soon as I got hired, it was right into expansion draft and right into, now we're in free agency, now we're into college draft. So, it's a lot, but like that's kind of like my mentality is just like dive in and just go, go, go.
Yeah, and the expansion draft, that's such a unique process to go through, right? It's unlike a regular draft. You're kind of scouting players that you've seen playing throughout the league elsewhere already.
Yeah, it is actually, I think I took it as an advantage. People are like, oh, it's the expansion team. You guys are not going to, your expectations are low. You don't have to compete. You don't, all this stuff. No, like you actually get to handpick players, that are going to fit your culture. Like people are like, the culture is your players. And so I got to handpick high character players, players that work hard, players who like love, like play with a chip on their shoulder. Like the fact that we got to choose those players, I think that to me, it's an advantage rather than a disadvantage.
Absolutely. And building a culture from the ground up, from scratch, from piece one. I mean, I love the adage too. It takes years to build an overnight success, right? Now, you've been around the game for decades, and I want to go back to the beginning. Where did you first fall in love with the game of basketball? How did you know that this game was going to be a big part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think I knew, but I didn't know at a young age. My dad was probably the reason why I fell in love with basketball. He taught us, he trained us like, little basketball players at a young age. And I learned like that was my love language with my dad. He was my best friend. That's all we knew. That's all we did together. And so I think I was in love with it at a young age. I just didn't even realize until probably times where it got taken away. So, tore my ACL my freshman year at UCLA. So I think by then, when you have to fully stop, completely removed, 8 months. I mean, that's when I knew like, oh, I can't breathe without basketball. So that's, I think, was a shock. But I think I was falling in love with it, since the age of 6 when I started.
Yeah. Well, and you were good at it too. You are good at it, but you were an excellent player in high school. 1998 Orange County Player of the Year by both the LA Times and the OC Register. Set school records in assists, steals, three-pointers made. Natalie Nakase fallen, but despite all of that, wasn't immediately like, okay, here are all the scholarship offers too. There was a little bit of a hurdle. You were a walk-on at UCLA. Talk about that process of being at the top of your game, but still had to kind of fight for your place in it.
Yeah. So funny story was like at the time when I wasn't getting like these really big schools like looking after or calling me, I was kind of like, are these coaches crazy? Like I kind of was like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they like me? Like, okay, yeah, I'm 5'1 3/4". I'm not the average college player of like 5'8", but I just kind of was like, I thought they were crazy for not recruiting me, and then internally, like I knew my mindset, I knew my hard work. So that's kind of why, like, why didn't that kind of be a big piece of, my recruitment? But I took it on as a challenge. Okay, like UCLA wasn't knocking at my door. You want me to walk on? And when Kathy Olivier was like, you're gonna have to earn your scholarship every year, and I'm like, where do I sign? I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, that's it. I go, Kathy, once you see me work, once you see kind of what I can bring to the table every single day, like my work ethic, you're gonna fall in love with me. And sure enough, I ended up being a captain for 3 years and a starting point guard 3 years. And so yeah, when I hear no, I'm like, great, let me prove it to you, let me prove you wrong, and on to the next.
And also, there's got to be this kind of comfort in knowing that your own preparation and your own understanding of the game is something you can fall back on, right? And when you walk into a situation like that where people, maybe not everyone else is clamoring at believing in you, but you can believe in yourself because you know how prepared you are.
Yes, that's the key. You just said it right there. Like believing in yourself is the key to anything, whether it's whatever job that you want or whatever dream that you want to accomplish. Like,
yeah,
it's the belief in yourself, because yes, that can get tainted, right? Like failure can get tainted, or like losing, or just, not getting the job that you wanted. But for me, I'm like, every failure is a lesson learned. Like you can learn from it, you can grow from it. That's when you see change, is when you
Yeah.
fail. So to me, fail as much as you can because that's really going to prepare you, and you're going to believe in yourself even more.
Yeah. And I feel like you learn so much more from those failures than you do from the successes. And also from the moments, like you mentioned, where the game was taken away from you. You had knee injury in college and at the pro level. When you had to learn how to come back from something like that, what did that do to your mentality? What kind of a hurdle was that? And how did that impact you, not just as a player then, but also the way you coach now?
Yeah, that's a great question because in college, like you're just trying to survive. You're living on your own, right? Like going back. But no, that again, that was when I realized like I can't breathe without basketball. Like athletes are just programmed to be very, habitual. Like they like habits, they like routines. And so when that routine got, you know, completely like distorted, then I really got shook. I got depressed. I mean, like when you can't get on the court every day, like I got really depressed. At one point I was like, is this going to be it for me? So I got really low, but like in the back of my mind, my dad is saying there's no quit in like how I raised you. So that wasn't even like even having a thought of having a conversation with my dad, like, hey dad, I think I'm going to step away from basketball. Like, no, that wasn't happening. And I'd rather go the other way. So yeah, it's just kind of like the mentality, the mindset kind of that my dad instilled in me, just this thing that really kind of kept me pushing and, overcoming like all the adversity that kind of went with, tearing your ACL.
Yeah. Now, the first time you did it, of course, in college, the second time you did it was the pros. You played professionally in the NWBL for 2 seasons and you played in Germany overseas. First of all, what's the difference between the domestic and the international level of play or type of play as a professional?
I think the overseas is way more physical. Like when I was played in Germany, I got pushed in the back. I got pushed and kicked in the head. Everything. Like it was so physical, no foul. And I'm sitting there like screaming and people, the refs can speak German, but I'm just sitting there screaming. But no, it was just really physical. But you have to learn. You have to learn to adjust. You have to learn to maybe be a little bit more skilled rather than, I'll tell you this, I stopped going to the paint. I really did. I stopped driving into the paint. I wanted to live and survive, but no. So I would say, yeah, the game is a lot more physical. And the fan base, I think I mean, we had drums, we had sirens, we had everything. And so I kind of think that's pretty cool. It's like you really can never hear like yourself talk or communicate in a gym when I was overseas.
Yeah. At 5'1 3/4", the safe spot is on the perimeter, right?
Yes, yes, overseas. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You better stay outside. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, that second knee injury when you were a pro, it was kind of the moment where you realized, okay, I'm going to step away from the playing aspect and go into coaching. What was that transition? I mean, I feel like a lot of players, and now especially we see it so often in, various sports and the men's and women's side of things that go from playing to coaching, and people say, oh, this person's going to be a great coach someday. This person's going to transition to coaching, but it's not always that easy. What was that transition like going from being, especially a point guard, a floor general on the floor, to a coach?
Yeah, I didn't want to coach. I'm just being, I didn't want to. I wanted to keep playing. I think playing basketball is like the best job in the world. Like to show up, put your shoes on, get some shots up and play offense, play defense. Like that's the best thing. So then coaching to me was something more like stand still. Now you're having meetings and things like that. But then I learned like if this was going to be my next step, this was the closest thing to basketball that I can do. I even tried. I don't know if anyone knew this, but when I then moved to Japan, I really tried to recuperate my knee, and then I tried to play again, but they said I would have to be a citizen there. So they're like, "Do you want to marry a Japanese man? Then you can play in Japan." I was like, that's not in the cards right now for me, thanks. But I really thought about it because I was like, I really want to play again. But yeah, so no, coaching, yeah, was to me the best, the best and closest to playing. And honestly, like now, I love it. Like I love giving back like how I was taught the game and try to impact as many people to be the best that they can be. That's close as you can get.
Well, yeah, and that is a great way to be a part of the game, to stay a part of the game. You mentioned Japan too. You went over there, you end up coaching as an assistant. You end up elevated to the head coach. You became the first female head coach of the Basketball Japan League. That's Japan's top professional league right there. That's a pretty huge accomplishment right there. I know in the moment it probably felt like it all happened so fast and you were just kind of day to day to day. But when you look back on that and the impact of that, do you feel that?
I think now, yeah. I think it's almost too when I listen to people, say it back to me, play it back to me when I hear it. I think, wow, like, did I actually just do that? So
Yeah.
I think that's like I guess, I don't know what I want to say, aha moment. Sorry, I just got someone who just came in. But no, I look back and honestly see the women that I was able to affect. I think after my year of being a head coach, I think I mentioned this before, like I had the best hugs, from our female fans. And once I figured out from our translator what they were saying, and they were basically saying like, thank you, you were, an inspiration to us. And I was just like, really? Like, I really, because I go, we didn't win that many games. And so I'm just like, kind of like, how did I inspire you? We didn't win. But she's like, having a female be in that type of position, being in a leadership position, which women are usually not seen in Japan. That's when I was like, wow, like I was able to, inspire women that are older than me. And I just kind of thought like that was pretty special.
Yeah. And visibility is so important too, especially not just for young girls and boys, but for people of all ages to say, wow, this is something that's possible for me or somebody like me or somebody who looks like me. And I think especially then it was so new in the scheme of sport, having a woman coach of a men's professional team. You know ball, you know the game so well, but when you walk into that room, was ever a moment of like, okay, let me make sure I can earn the respect of the people? Was there ever any hurdle in that regard?
No, I don't really see it was a hurdle. I took it more as like, this is an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and Vinny Del Negro, I mean, Vinny Del Negro hired me. He didn't know
Yeah.
me. He didn't know who I was. And, you hear back in these stories about how people get into the NBA, a lot of it's connections, a lot of it's relationships. And so, the fact that Vinny was just like, you want to do video as an intern at 31 and you were just a head coach and, a men's professional in Japan, like, yeah, why not? Like he's like, you're overqualified, but like if you want this job. So I just was like, wow, this is a great
Yeah.
opportunity. I read that Eric Spoelstra became a head coach, by starting in video. And that's the way he got his foot in the door. He wasn't a player. So I was like, I'm just gonna do what Eric Spoelstra did. And yeah, so that's kind of what I did is like I kind of set my goals. I kind of tried to follow the journey that someone else did. And yeah, now I'm a head coach in the WNBA.
Right. I love the idea too, the story that I saw that, when you were coaching in Japan, you considered staying there, and your dad was actually the one who convinced you to come back to the US, who reminded you of your dream, which is a dream you first told me when we met when we were both working with the Clippers, that you're like, I want to be the first female head coach in the NBA. Obviously, you are the first head coach of the Golden State Valkyries. That is a pretty dang close manifestation there. But how was that transition for you of like, okay, I'm going to walk away from here and go back to chase the dream that I had set my North Star on?
Yeah, so now I look back, right? Because I was like pissed. I was like, nah, I love living in Japan. I love the culture, everything. And at that age too, you want to be able to live overseas. And, as you get older, then you want to go back, to where you're from and your family. But what I started to realize was my dad he saw something in me. He saw like, well, maybe she could do this, so he saw that there was some belief in him. And I think when people believe in you, then they have to challenge you, they have to push you. And I think that's what he did. He knew my eventual dream was to work in the NBA. And so he's just like, well, get your ass back here then, so I think having people that believe in you and really try to challenge you and push you, I think those are the ones and those are the moments that really help you, steer you in the right direction.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Vinny Del Negro, of course, bringing you onto the coaching staff of the Clippers in the video room. You worked your way up. You stayed at that organization through several coaching changes as well, which is not easy to do. Usually, coaching changes, as you are aware, like there's, a lot of changes that come with it. But as somebody who proved to be such an important part to that franchise, how do you see that evolution of your role throughout the years and your time in the NBA with the Clippers?
Yeah, I think it was the head coaches that kind of maybe similar to my dad, like they believed in me,
Mm-hmm.
like obviously Vinny did in some way after we first met. And then, when Doc Rivers took over, I think maybe he saw something in me that I didn't know. And I think I worked with Doc for about 7 years.
Mhm.
And a moment with Doc was when I kind of voiced out, I think in an article that eventually I do want to be a head coach. And I remember, I always like to stand next to Doc when we're on the court, just because I always like the lens of a head coach. And I also want to hear anything that he has to say, whether he mumbles it. And so I'd always stand next to him. And then I remember him leaning over and he said, Nat, he's like, when you become a head coach, he goes, just remember to put this like special defense. He's like, this will really trick him. He's like, you can get a steal off of it or whatever. And I'm like, wait. I'm like, rewind. Did you just say like when you're going to be a head coach? And so, when your mentors and, people that you admire, like kind of say your dream out loud, it's pretty effective. And so, yeah, that shot my confidence up like really fast. And so, I think it's, the people who I worked under with the Clippers, and obviously Tyronn Lue. I mean, I did his video when he first was with the Clippers with Doc, right? So
Yeah.
that's why we knew each other when he went to Cleveland, and we stayed in contact. And so for me, like having T. Lue just answer a call, answer a text, like instantly, just kind of having that support system. I think, again, that's just, again, more confidence building, more inspiring because they see it. They see it in me. I don't think they would talk to me if they didn't see it, So I think, just those type of relationships I was able to build, I think that's really why I stayed there as long as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they saw it and they supported it and nurtured the thing that you were already putting in so much time and effort into growing yourself. Now, when you left the Clippers organization, you went to the WNBA, you worked with the Aces. You guys won a championship there. It was one of the, peak franchises in the WNBA. What was that transition like going from the NBA to the WNBA in terms of coaching, in terms of experience? How different was that for you?
Yeah, so I didn't know Becky prior, like I knew of her. I mean, who didn't know Becky Hammon, right?
Of
So I
course, yeah.
didn't know Becky Hammon. So it was a little bit of a hard phone call to take because like I was like, because we were always like competing. So it was Jenny Busak who was like, have a conversation with Becky. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, trust me. She's like, you're not going to regret it. And sure enough, like got on the phone with Becky and we were just talking about experiences we went through in the NBA. Oh my God, the common, themes that we had, the common just like everything. It was like kind of talking to like a sister in the NBA. Like it really
Okay.
was. And so her IQ was off the charts. And I was like, wow, I'm like, I could learn so much from Becky. I'm attracted to obviously high Q, head coaches. And then, Becky, on another note, she just asked me how I was doing as a person. And that's something I did not get a lot from my past experiences. Like she knew my dad passed. And so it was just like, it was actually the perfect moment where I knew like I could learn a lot, but I know I'll be in good hands. So I think that was kind of the immediate like connection of like, just take this leap of faith, Nat, and just, after 10 years at NBA, let's go to the W. Let's learn from one of the best coaches. Let's help a league that's just ready to take off. And I literally, that was probably the best coaching experience I've had with the Las Vegas Aces under Becky. It
Yeah.
was so much fun. And winning 2 championships isn't that bad.
Yeah. Not too bad. You got some hardware out of it as well. And I think, you look back at this point and you see all these experiences that you've had in the game and coaching that have kind of built you towards this position that you're in now. Does it kind of like in the rearview mirror looking at it, think like, wow, all these pieces kind of came together to make this a perfect storm as now you embark on your first head coaching experience in the W as the first head coach of this franchise?
Yeah. I mean, I'm only here because of them. I'm literally like a piece of, I think, every one of the coaches and mentors that I've had. I mean, I haven't even talked about, Armand Hill. I think you know him from the Clippers. Like someone who took me under his wing after a year of not really even talking to me because he's so tough. And I had to gain his respect and gain his just able to be in his space because he doesn't F around. Like he's a straight shooter, as you know. He's tough. He's no BS. So yeah, I'm pretty much the product of like my environment and my mentors, and like I owe it to all of them, to them. Number one, just the belief, but also just every little thing that they're willing to kind of teach me, and mold me. And so now I'm like, I gotta do a great job because of the high caliber mentors that I have, like now this is like, let me make sure I do a good job because of the preparation and the time that they spent with me.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned too, some of them harder to earn over than others. Was there a
Yeah.
moment that you're like, okay, this is how I will win you over? Is there something that you can share that you remember?
Yeah. So with Armand, I mean, to me, I love the silent type coaches as well because you know they're observing. And so to me, some of the great coaches are quiet because then they're seeing everything and they're listening, so they're taking more rather than like they're outputting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this guy has a lot of knowledge. I was like, I can tell, like he has a lot of experience. And then when I did ask him a question, he was like quick, and then he's kind of like, move away. I was just like, oh my God. I was like, why is he so mean? And like after a year, right, where I just kind of always kept it quick. I was like, okay, he doesn't like to waste time. So it's like, talk to him, move on. And then the first time I did a defensive edit, he pretty much cussed me out without like giving me any leeway. He's just like, just don't fuck this up. And I was like, okay, got it. Like, got it. But what he was teaching me was like, when you come and you have to give an edit and you have to, it's got to be right. It's
Yeah.
got to be right. It's got to be correct. And you have to be able to deliver it. And so that's where I learned my preparation was like, you only get one opportunity in the NBA because one opportunity of like speaking in front of the players and they don't respect you because you're not prepared, you're done. So
Yeah.
learn that from Armand. And then once we started to like become a little bit of friends, um, he he was showing me a play and I took a picture of it and he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm taking a picture. It's like easier for me to remember. He goes, just look at it. And he goes, study it. And he's like, move on. And I'm like, why can't I just take a picture? He's like, yeah, you guys in this generation, like you're just lazy. You're lazy. He's like, you have to be able to listen or to look at a play and then be able to like move on and write it down. He goes, you always can't rely on a camera, iPhone, Nat. He's like, you got to be able to learn it in game time or like the first time you see it. And like, that has helped me a ton. You know what I mean? Like, because when you're
Yeah.
out watching, like whether I'm watching a game on TV or if I'm like at an arena, like I could now see it, remember it, and then go home and write it down. So
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is trusting your own mind over relying on the crutch of like, okay, I have this to fall back on. I can go back and look at it. Because how often do we really go back and look at the pictures we take of certain things like that anyway, right?
yeah, and it's actually really hard. Like if you just
Yeah.
you see a play drawn, like it's just hard. It's hard
Yeah.
to remember. So yeah, he taught me all these little tricks of like you have to be efficient, can't waste time, you know what I mean? And like you have to be ready and prepared. So
And if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, in the words of Sugar Free.
exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. I have loved watching you grow and evolve in your journey, and I'm so excited for you and for the Valkyries. I want to know what you want basketball fans to know about this team and this organization as it's about to embark on its debut season.
Yeah, I mean, being our first season, I think what I could definitely promise is just we're going to be very, very competitive and gritty. Like our players are going to show up every single day just because, again, those are the players that we have already selected. They are hard-nosed playing, they're gritty, they play with a lot of energy. And so I think when you come to a Valkyries game, you're going to feel our players. And when you feel our players, you're going to leave, I think, always wanting more. That's just how I see it.
Gotta leave them wanting more, which is a perfect way to end this conversation because I could talk to you for hours about this
I
stuff. But
know.
Golden State Valkyries head coach Natalie Nakase, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been such a treat chatting with you and getting to know more about your journey and your playbook to success.
Oh, no. Thanks, Maddie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This has been the Her Playbook podcast presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Shop jewelry sales designed for every day and every occasion at your local Kendra Scott store or kendrascott.com.